We don't know. Well, right now, yeah, you're right. Because the way that we have it written, exactly, we'll talk about that here in a second, okay? So, all right, so what we have is we want to be able to do something in case it is equal to 0. In other words, we're going to throw an empty collection exception. And if you notice my little message here, it says int list is empty. Okay? That's helpful for somebody who's debugging this later on if they run into that exception, right? Now I have this class here that I'm calling empty collection exception. If this count is equal to 0, we're going to throw this new empty collection exception. Sean was right that this is currently not a checked exception. It inherits from the runtime exception class. How did he know that? Well, I mean, right. Jared, how do we know that it's not a checked exception?
Because it didn't give a red line under it.
That's the wrong answer. Brandon, why do you think?
I would say.
It's the correct answer, but it's the wrong answer.
What was your question?
How do we know this is unchecked, this exception?
Because if you run this without the exception, then you'll probably throw the same exception. Or some-
Doesn't the throw have to be in the constructor or the method?
Okay, Alicia, did you want to add to that?
Well, no, I was just, no, I'm probably wrong, but like, you don't really know what kind of error you're gonna get yet.
Well, here's the thing, is that we said that if you throw an unchecked exception, you don't have to do anything with it, right? We're not doing anything with it, we're just throwing this. If it's a checked exception, we'd either have to have a try-catch blocker on this, or we'd have to have throws and empty collection exception. Okay? That's what, and you're right, you would get a red line, but what we would actually do with it, and we're going to look at the red line in a second. Do you want to add something, Catherine?
I'm just kind of confused still about the difference between check and unchecked. Me too.
Okay, yeah, Clay?
Because
We'll get to that.
in the file class, essentially, you can use the file class and you could possibly get a file not found exception, but the file class itself has to have thrown that, and in that case, it would
Exactly.
not be.
Right.
It would have been.
It's a checked exception that the file class is going to throw if it can't find the file.
But isn't that what we're doing there? Is we're throwing for some
We are,
special
but
case?
if you looked at the file when it tries to open the file, it's going to have in there throws file not found exception.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to.
So is whether an exception is checked or unchecked largely dependent on like the classes that you're using?
Well, it's a design decision. Okay, we've decided to make this extend the runtime exception class. That makes it unchecked. Let's say we remove that. Let's make it a checked exception.
Question?
Yes.
So, when you're talking about design decision, it's like you're deciding whether or not to deal with one.
Well, it's not so much that you have to deal with them. It's the programmers that are using these classes, whether you're
Or
making
they
them
have
deal
to
with them,
deal with them, okay.
and how they have to deal with them.
Okay.
Okay, or whether they have to deal with it actually is a better way of putting it. So now we have the extends exceptions class. Now in this case, because exception is a checked exception, if we go back to here, we have our cute little red line, and what does it say? We have to either add a throws declaration to this method, which says that it's going to throw one of these things, or we have to surround it with a try-catch block. Because the exception is now checked. It inherits from the, I erased that. It inherits from the exception class, and therefore it's a checked exception.
So would you say that like a checked exception can be predicted to some extent, and so?
Well, it forces programmers to deal with it. It's in your face. You have to do something. When you use the scanner class, you have to do something. You have to have the file not found exception, right? So you have to have a try-catch block, or you have a throws declaration. Okay? So one way we can deal with this is we can do this. Actually, let me just go ahead and do this. Now you notice that it gives us a choice. We can throw an empty collection exception. We can throw an exception, which is what it inherits from directly, or we can throw a throwable, which is an interface. Okay? We're going to do this because it's more specific.
chapter 11 or 10 stuff right here?
10.
10.
10.
Okay? Now if we save this, it's just, okay, now it's happy to that. But we're gonna get rid of that, because we're not gonna leave it as a checked exception. We're gonna make it a unchecked exception. We go back to this. Now we're gonna make it a runtime. All right. And then we just have to, and this is good to go. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back here, and we're going to actually we're going to do another method that is going to be a int list test. So what we're going to do is we're going to have another public method, static, just so we don't have to have a class, void int list test. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new int list. So how many objects do I have in my list right now?
0.
We have none. So again, what we're going to call the intlist.get method, right? Because that's the one that throws the exception, right? The get method here. If we want to handle that exception, we have to have a try-catch block around it. We don't have to. Let's try it without it real quick. If we do list.get, it doesn't matter what we put in here because it should throw the exception, right? And if we do this, we got an arithmetic exception, but we haven't handled it. We didn't catch that. It just went off on our int solely because it's unchecked. Or if we do this, oh, we're doing div by 0, you're right. My bad. Shoot. Try to do this quickly and then mess it up. You're right, that was the wrong method. Let's do it again. Okay? Right, because it's an empty collection exception, right? So what we want to do is we want to handle it at this level. So we're going to have a catch block. And we're running out of time. We're already out of time. These holidays are killing me. Because there's so much more that I'd like to be covering right now. We'll just do ECE dot print stat trace. And then we can do something like caught empty collection. Let's try this again. And you notice at this point, because when I have that print statement, you're probably going to want to do something else. You're not necessarily just want to print out a message, but that's the idea of how exceptions can be. We're going to talk more about